This is it, people. This is what you've been waiting for. This is Everyday Celebrity Podcast. The podcast for everyday people with everyday problems, trying to find everyday solutions to accomplish everyday goals. Let's start the show. Welcome to another episode of Everyday Celebrity Podcast. Today, we have a special episode. We have two guests. It's been a long time since I interviewed two people at the same time. But I feel I wanted to interview two people and get their side of what's going on in the world today. Because I can't speak for women, and I definitely can't speak for white women. So, I mean, I'm black, so I already know how black people feel, obviously. So I think we should hear from the other races. So I'm going to let these two introduce themselves. Please, one by one, say your name, say your age, and say what do you do for a living and where you're from, if you can remember all that. All right. What do you guys
I'll go ahead. I'm Lucy. I'm 31. Right now I work in disaster management. I live in Oakland, but I'm from Boston originally.
And I'm Dylan. I'm 27. I am an elementary school teacher, and I'm from the suburbs of Chicago.
Okay. So, what brought both of you guys to the Bay Area?
My sister was out here, and I was living in New York, and I didn't really like living in New York City, so I wanted to try something new, and here I am.
You just got up and left?
Yeah, drove across the country, packed up a car.
Did you move in with your sister when you got here?
I slept on her floor for a couple days, and then a bunch of Airbnbs until I found a spot.
Okay. Dylan?
Oh, yeah, why I'm out here. I also moved out here for my job as a teacher in Richmond, so I did the same thing. I drove out here.
What made you want to be a teacher?
I didn't want to be, I thought, and then I lived abroad for 4 years working in international schools, and I was in environmental studies, and then I just prefer working with kids. So,
what school were you working at internationally?
They were the British international schools. I did 2 years in British school, Kuala Lumpur, and 2 years in the school of Yangon in Myanmar.
Okay. And Lucy, you, what specifically do you do? Like, I know you say your job title, but what exactly do you do?
Yeah, so I work for a company that they respond to disasters, but they also help like cities and countries prepare for disasters. They do natural disasters, so like hurricanes, floods, earthquakes. So they're basically like consultants, and they help people like plan and build up infrastructure so that it won't get destroyed in a disaster.
So I'm guessing you travel to other countries?
Yeah, it's international.
And I'm guessing you've seen a lot of like people in dire need of like the simple basics of life.
Yeah. A lot of what they do is like people who like build their own homes, build their own schools and stuff. So a lot of it isn't really built to the kind of standards that, like, if an earthquake hit, it would stay up. So a lot of it is in I don't know, they call them like informal settlements, or like other people would call them slums.
Who was your boss?
A lady.
You don't know her name?
Her name is Sabine.
Sabine?
Yeah.
Is she American?
No, she's South African.
Do you know if your company pockets money?
Oh, for sure. Because they're not a nonprofit, they're a company. So they definitely make money.
So they don't put all the money toward actually doing the job.
No, so like either somebody like the World Bank or like USAID would hire them, or a government would hire them specifically. So yeah.
And how did you get this job?
I applied. I was working before also internationally. I lived abroad for a bunch of years, working in more environmental work. And so yeah, I don't know. Just applied to a bunch of things, and that's how I got this job.
Where all overseas have you lived?
I was mostly living in the Caribbean, in Grenada, but I worked all over the Caribbean.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Dylan, where all have you lived overseas?
I lived in Italy for a bit, and then Malaysia and Myanmar.
That's it?
Well, lived, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Lucy, you said that you grew up in Boston.
Yep.
And Boston's like one of the racist places ever.
Yeah, that's what everybody says.
Where in Boston were you?
Wellesley, it's like a suburb to the west of Boston.
Was it like all white?
Definitely
City?
all white. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was your experience growing up there?
It was, I mean, it's definitely like a white bubble. I feel like it's like the Northeast liberal white bubble where people think because they're Democrats and because they're nice people that they're not racist.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like a different type of racism there, I would say.
Are your parents racist?
I think everybody is racist. I think every white person is racist, so I'm going to say yes. No,
Dylan,
for real.
that means you're racist too,
Yep,
Dylan.
I'll take it.
I think
That's
racism
fine.
is non-binary. It's not like you are or you aren't. It's like different, degrees of racism. So I think everybody is racist.
So everybody's racist in your
I think
eyes.
so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Are there certain levels to racism?
Yeah, I would say there's definitely levels.
So, explain the level? What's Donald Trump's level of racism? Is that the highest form of racism, or is it like someone that's in the leader of the KKK or the alt-right?
I think Donald Trump is probably like a 3 because I think it gets like way worse than Donald Trump. I think he's kind of just like a mouthpiece, but there are people who like really mean business, and I think they're way worse and scarier.
Okay.
Way more violent.
Yeah.
I think like if your racism is more violent against specific people, like, and you're willing to put violent acts upon people, then like that's the worst they can get. From like, I don't know if the worst they can get, but that's like incredibly.
So Dylan, you basically agree with what she's saying that all people are racist?
Yeah.
I changed my mind on Donald Trump though because I'm thinking like physical violence.
Yeah.
But I feel like he uses his power and his money for like other types of violence, like
to encourage violence upon other people.
Yeah, that and
Isn't
also
that
just
worse?
like criminal justice violence. So
Because when you can encourage violence,
Yeah.
you're encouraging someone to do something they wouldn't normally do if they weren't listening to you.
Yeah, no, I feel like I could argue both sides of that as well. Like if you are supposed to be the leader of the free world, although I use the term leader lightly.
and free world.
That exactly. That yeah. That I agree. Like he's standing in front of millions of people and saying that like this is okay and that you should do these things.
Mm.
And inflicting violence on other people.
So
like when
I'll
you
bump
went,
him up to it too.
Yeah.
Did your parents vote for Donald Trump? Do you guys know?
No, I don't think so. My dad was always a Republican until Obama, and then I don't know, he switched over. My mom's always been a Democrat.
So I want to stay on when you were growing up in Boston. So did you? I'm assuming you went to like an all-white school, like middle school and high school.
So it was mostly all white. I can think of maybe like 2 to 3 non-white families in my town, but Boston has a program where they take kids from like downtown Boston, and it's like I think a lottery system where they can go to schools in the suburb. So they like imported the diversity to my high school basically, and so that kind of like made it even more of a divide because not only was there like race differences, but there are also like kids from a totally different town and a totally different background. So you don't like know them from the neighborhood, you don't know them from other like elementary school. You know what I mean? So
were those kids getting fucked with?
No, they weren't getting fucked with, but they was just like segregated. Like they were all friends with each other, and the white people were friends with each other. So.
Were you raised by your parents with the idea that it's if you bring a black guy home, it's fine, or if you play with black kids, it's fine, and all that shit?
Yeah.
So your parents didn't really show their racism?
No, they would never like say anything like that. It took me a long time to see things because I feel like my parents always raised me like be good to everybody, and I thought that meant like they're not racist.
Yeah.
But I think it's more complicated than that.
Were your parents religious?
Yeah, my dad was growing up. I was raised Episcopalian, so I went to church every Sunday until I was 13. It's like
I don't know shit about.
It's
the
Christianity.
village.
It's Christianity, but
It's like a worser Christianity.
is it what?
Are they the extremists of
No,
Christianity?
no, that's what, evangelical?
Yeah.
No, they're
Okay.
like Protestant kind of. They don't
Okay.
believe in the Pope.
They don't believe in the Pope.
No,
Why not? Why is that?
'cause that's just Catholics.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. You have any siblings?
I have a sister,
Okay. Older sister.
older sister. Yeah.
All right, Dylan.
Yes.
How's it like growing up for you? And what do you say?
I said the suburbs of Chicago.
Chicago. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's like in the same thing. Like I would say.
Where's the suburbs in Chicago at?
So Batavia. So mine, I was like straight west.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like very much so similar. Like I feel like I was like further enough out of Chicago that
Wait, do you know Chicago was the first city with a skyscraper?
I did know that. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I
All right.
didn't know that.
Continue.
But yeah, it's like I mean, it was incredibly similar. Everyone, like on my block, I lived in a cul-de-sac. Like it was all white families. My elementary school was like a walking elementary school, and so that was pretty white. And then like middle school and high school, all the kids in the whole town go to the same middle school and high school. So it definitely is more diverse then, but like my specific neighborhood was very white. And yeah, like I feel like my parents lived in Chicago and then we moved around a bit like when I was born, but when we moved back to the Chicago area, like I feel like it was the classic like white flight thing, like, okay, we're having kids now, and so we got to get out of the city. Because you either go to private school, which is like in their eyes, I think that they would have thought if they wanted us to get like a quality education, they would have had to send, which like now I don't, whatever, there's a whole nother side of that, but they would have had to send us to a private school, which is like so expensive we couldn't afford that, or the public schools in Chicago aren't great.
Okay. So your parents basically raised you to be colorblind also?
Yeah, probably. I would say so.
What about your grandparents?
Did they raise me to be colorblind?
No. Did your grandparents raise your parents to be colorblind?
Oh. Yes. My mom's, yeah. I would say yes.
All right. So, do you have any siblings?
I have a brother.
You have a brother?
He's older than me.
All right. So it's obvious that you guys were raised in all white, like towns or cities or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys are not like the average person who's raised around all white people. Is that safe to say?
Well, what is the average?
I mean, I'm sure. Lucy, do you date outside your race?
Yeah.
Do you date outside your race?
Yeah.
What's your favorite music? Hip hop?
I don't know. That's a hard question to answer.
What's your favorite music? Reggae?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, like I'm saying is, if I was a white person, right, and I was raised in a all-white town,
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably have different views. I wouldn't be so like, I don't know, so forthcoming to like other culture. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, what was it about you guys that you think made you so accepting to other cultures and other people so freely?
I mean, I would say definitely moving abroad. Like when I moved to Italy, that was a bit different. I was studying there, but when I moved to Malaysia for the first time, like I think that was when I know you've lived abroad too. Like the first time it just was like different, and I loved how different it was from America and how different people are and their cultures and their food and the way that their traditions, like everything about that. Like I want to continue going to other places to like learn
Keep talking.
what other people's cultures are and traditions. So I think that was like where it all began, like at least for me, like not only being accepting, but being like more curious and wanting to learn more, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about
That
you.
makes sense. Yeah, I think kind of something similar. I mean, I don't know. I can't say like what started it, but I've just like always been interested in
Mm-hmm.
like not always being surrounded by people who are the exact same as me. I mean, whether it's like race, gender, background, like all kinds of things. I just like talking to different kinds of people, and I definitely think traveling, like experiencing other cultures and realizing like, okay, other people live different ways and they're doing all right. Like everybody has different ways. Like there's literally 8 billion different ways that you could live, and they're all okay. And I think that's part of like what white people think is that like the white culture, the white way of living is the only way. So I think like exposure and realizing that there's
When you went overseas, was that the first time you were around like a shit ton of black people?
No. I mean, I've like always traveled, and like I feel like it's like a constant, like, I don't know, you have to, I did it like purposely. Like I purposely always put myself in places and situations and jobs and communities and friends that didn't look like me, that weren't like me. So it definitely wasn't the first time for me. But it definitely, I mean, it was maybe the most extreme for me.
I feel like that when you do move abroad, like for the first time, you have to already have like this, like, I don't know, like I wanted to be in a place that was new to me and uncomfortable and around people that were like completely different from me. Like, so I feel like that is like, I don't think that I could have like one specific time where I decided, but like I would say like the first time I moved abroad is where I was like, there are so many ways to live, and like they're all so wonderful in so many different ways.
So you say you're a elementary teacher, right? What's the hardest thing about your job?
The hardest and the best thing are the kids. Well, the hardest thing is probably, I mean, like dealing with admin and like the district itself, and like there's always money being taken away from us. So
is your I know schools are under different what do you call it?
Districts?
Yeah, district. What district is your school under?
I'm West Contra Costa.
Is that a good, I mean, do they get a lot of money going into that district?
No. This last year, but even before coronavirus, we still are in a $50 million deficit for this upcoming school year. And so they laid off 250 teachers and counselors and PE teachers and music teachers and art teachers. So, no.
And you've been teaching online?
Yeah, we finished, but yeah.
How was that experience?
Very challenging. The beginning of it was just trying to get everyone to have a laptop, trying to get Wi-Fi set up. We had hotspots, but our district ran out on the first day.
So you guys were buying kids laptops?
So we had them, but like they have to be distributed, and so families had to come pick them up if their kids weren't there on the last day. We had like 24-hour notice to get everything. It was like Thursday night we got an email, like when we had all gone home, and then by Friday the kids left at noon and everything had to be done.
I don't understand why you would continue the school year for elementary. Like,
right.
I mean, they ain't learning shit anyway. They're just running around playing.
So that was like a big discussion. Do we hold all, like, it wouldn't be holding them back, but like, do they all repeat the same grade? Do they stay with the teacher next year? Like, a lot of it is like money.
Just pass them. Shit. It's only been 2 months.
So that's the thing. Everyone, unless there was a plan in place before we started doing distance learning, everybody passed. Like if the kid was already, there was like meetings and plans in place for them to be held back. Otherwise, everyone passed. Like elementary through high school.
Who's the baddest student you have in your class?
I'm none. I would never say that.
Why not? There's one that you children. Just want to spank. Who's the one you want to spank?
No, because they're children, and like kids all learn so differently and at different paces, and like they're just figuring themselves out. They're just little humans.
How do you feel about kids being classified as retarded?
Well, first of all, hard R. I wouldn't say that word. And that doesn't really happen.
Because you know it doesn't happen?
That doesn't like it happens in different ways now. Like kids have IEPs, so they have individual education plans. And like within that, it's like not every kid gets the same thing because no kid learns the same way.
Exactly. So that leads up to this other question. Do you know why so many children of color get classified as mentally retarded?
I mean, because the way that the teachers think that like the way that they behave, if they're loud, if they call out, or if all these other things, they think that they're unable to learn and they don't want to deal with the student. And so they just send them referrals. They say that they need Adderall. They say that they need to be on all these drugs.
Do you think
and
that's
medication. Right? No, of course not. Absolutely not.
Okay, good. That's exactly one of the that's exactly what I was about to say, is because the teachers think they'll see a kid, right, who will be like high and like a lot of energy, and then they'll say, oh yeah, this kid can't learn. But what kid doesn't have high energy?
Exactly.
And then when a kid, I don't know if you noticed, but when a kid is classified as mentally retarded, the school,
they don't say that anymore though, right?
What did I say? What did I say?
Tell them what to say.
So like you could say different things. Like you could, it depends on like I said, they would either have
let's say a learning
impairment, or they have unfinished learning, meaning that like there are no gaps in their learning, they just haven't finished learning.
Okay, that's just a way to be nice and try to get the parents to go, oh, your son is not this, he's this, but it means the same.
No, but instead, but then you can be more specific about it. Your student has unfinished learning in their reading comprehension. Yes. And therefore, we're giving them this plan.
Yes.
You don't just put a
all right, so I'm not going to say,
on it.
all right, we'll say learning disability. So when a kid is classified to have a learning disability, the school gets money for that shit. And the more kids that you have that have learning disabilities, the more money your school is going to make. And
but where do you
wait? And another thing is that when students get that distinction, it's not a scientific, because there's nothing scientific that can prove that a kid has a learning disability. It's just from a psychologist.
Do they require like a testing psychologist?
No, it's just a psychologist giving his point of view on the kid, and people go by that. There's nothing scientific that you can prove that this kid has learning disability.
Yeah, it just depends on what you're like recommending. If I'm recommending
so a lot of
behavior, then a behavior specialist, or you have like different specialists, like a math coach who comes in, like you have different specialists that come.
There's a lot of psychologists who give bad diagnosis to children, and especially children of color, because you can't expect let's say you take a boy, right? A 5-year-old black kid grew up in the inner city. Take a 5-year-old white kid, grew up in the suburbs, and then you give him a test, let's say a simple vocabulary test, right? This 5-year-old kid from the suburbs has a shit ton of books in his house. His mother's talk to him in the language that's on the test. The 5-year-old black kid, he takes the test. He's looking at words that he's never even seen or heard before, because that's just a way of life. It doesn't mean that he has a learning disability. So he's going to fail the test, right? And then the psychologist is going to be, okay, your son has a learning disability. No, he doesn't. You're giving him a test of shit he's not even used to. He's not even, so.
Yeah.
That's one thing bad about testing children.
Yeah, no, that's like like my district is very against all that kind of thing, and like just knowing like where these students come from and where every student comes from, and that like we didn't take standardized testing this year because of Corona, and like standardized testing puts so much stress on kids. It's inaccurate. Like they can't not every student can perform looking at a computer. And so like during all this, like we've seen that we didn't have state testing, and like, look, everybody survived. Like the kids are still going to move up. Like there's so little to gain from it when you don't take in every other part of a child's life, rather than those few days when they sit in front of a computer.
Do you agree, Lucy?
I agree, yeah.
All right, so you guys both lived overseas. Tell me about your experience. Where was the first place that you lived overseas?
Lived?
Yes.
What do you mean by lived?
Like you were living there.
You went to the grocery store there. That's what I counted as.
Oh, okay. Ecuador.
Ecuador?
Yeah.
And how long were you there for?
6 months.
6 months, and how was that?
It was cool. I mean, I was there as a student, so I was taking classes and then working at a hospital. But it was cool. I liked it.
Ecuador is I don't want to sound stupid, but
It's in South America. It's
Okay.
near like Peru.
Yeah. All right, now how were you treated by like the locals?
I don't know. I feel like I was young then. I was probably like 17. Was I 17? No, I guess I was 19. And so I feel like I was always with like a group of other American students, or with like I lived with a family. So I would say it wasn't like as drastic as when I was living by myself in other countries where I felt it more. Because I feel like the places that I went, people were used to Americans. But I definitely got a lot of shit for like people, everywhere you go, people hate Americans. And people hate America, and they want to tell you about how American policies fuck their country. So
Yeah.
I feel like I definitely got a lot of that, especially
Were
in
you
South
defending America when they were saying
Well,
this,
that's
or
the
you
thing
were
is like I
agreeing?
feel like when I'm in America, I'm like the first person to talk shit about America. And then when I go abroad, I feel like I am supposed to defend my country, but it's really hard to defend America.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's good people here, but overall, it's hard to defend America.
Dylan, where was the first place you lived?
Well, the first place I lived was Italy, but I was studying as well. And I feel like when you're studying, you just like move around in like these groups of Americans. So I feel like the first place I like really lived was Malaysia. And it's interesting because in Malaysia, everyone's like, oh, they're like white skin, like, are you from America? Like, oh, America is so great. They want to know everything about America. And I'm like, I promise you, like, it's not the best country in the world. Like, and then I was working in British international school, so most people that I worked with and my friends were British, or from like somewhere in the UK. And I would always just like if they were like, oh, where are you guys from? And somebody would say the UK, I would just like go along with that. Yeah, I'm from the UK. Because then like the same thing, like I'm the same, like if I'm in America, like I'll talk shit about America. And I just want to like avoid so when I first lived there, Obama was president, and that was what they would first say. America, oh, Obama, we love Obama. And there were like posters of Obama like driving down the highway in Malaysia. And then when Trump got elected, they were like, oh, Trump, like, do you like him? Do you like him? And I'd be like, no. And they're like, good. Like, so they talked about.
How long were you living there?
In Malaysia for 2 years, and then Myanmar for 2 years.
So you went from Malaysia to Myanmar?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why did you?
Because they're like sister schools, and I just didn't want to come home, but I didn't want to stay in Malaysia.
Okay. Was there like a big difference between the two?
Yes, big. Malaysia is like incredibly developed, I guess you would say. There's like huge malls. Everyone calls it like Malaysia. And then in Myanmar, it's very much so still a developing country. The school itself was wildly different. Where I lived was different. It's more, it's just still developing. And yeah.
Okay. So what do you think a big issue in Malaysia is?
Malaysia is also very racist. They have like three main, so there's like Malay, so you're Malaysian Malay, you're Indian Malay, or you're Chinese Malay. And there's like a hierarchy there of Chinese Malay are like at the top. They like work in big oil and banks, and like they drive the fancy cars. And then you have the Indian Malay, and then the Malay is just what they're called, their group. And so there's like, and it's very known, and everyone's quite obvious about it, and you can like see as well there the differences in like where people live, what kind of cars they drive, what kind of jobs they have. So
Lucy, what's a big issue in where were you at, Grenada?
Yeah.
What's
I guess I would say jobs. I feel like it's like such a tiny country, and so I think it's just the economy. Like there's a lot of people unemployed.
a bunch of it's like starving people out there?
No. It's not like that. Everybody's doing all right there, but there's just not a lot of jobs, not a lot of stuff to do. So.
What were you doing for fun out there?
For fun?
Yeah.
For fun, I don't know, go to the beach, go hiking, go to bars.
What are the bars like out there?
They're mostly like outdoor, like open air type of bars. So it's like DJs set up sound systems like on the beach or something like that.
Did you ever get drugged out there?
No, I never got drugged. I never got drugged anywhere I went.
Dylan, you ever get drugged?
No.
Yeah. That's a good thing. All right. So, what do you think? What is to you? I mean, everyone is different, but out here in the United States, what do you think your number one issue is with the country?
Mine or the country's number one issue?
What do you think the number one issue is? Well, yeah, what's your number one issue with the country?
Like, so do you mean, like, for me, I would say, like, education inequities, because that's, like, what I work with and deal with, and it's rooted within systemic racism.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's what I
mean, well, you could put a lot of shit. Basically, everything is rooted in
No, I know.
racism.
But I'm saying, like, if that's what we're talking about in this podcast, like, within systemic racism of that huge umbrella of the entire country, education inequity
is your biggest problem.
Yeah.
I feel like
not my biggest problem. It's like what
I mean, your biggest issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like anytime you try and solve any issue, it like kind of always comes back to education. It's like, how do we build a different kind of world? And it's like, always teach the kids, you know?
So what's your biggest issue?
I don't know what my biggest, I mean, in terms of like work, I usually work in like environmental issues.
Well, I'm not
for
talking
me
about work. You can
personally-
just say anything. You look at United States, what do you think the biggest problem with it is?
I think it's like our economic values. I think it's capitalism.
Mm.
In like inside the US and also like how we treat other countries. I think it's capitalism.
Mm. All right.
What's yours?
What's yours, yeah?
Racism. Yeah, and
Would you have
That's
said that 2 months ago too?
I've been saying it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this fucking country it was built on racism, so I don't think it would ever change. But anyway, what your issue is education. How do you think you can not you, but how do you think it can be fixed?
Well, first we need more money so that we can have resources, so that we can have...
We're the richest country in the world.
I know, but our schools need more money. My district needs more money. Find me one, like every district will say they need more money.
Mm-hmm.
We have one counselor for over 550 students, and most of our students have some sort of trauma in their background, and I have to teach PE. They have music for 30 minutes a day, but that probably will go away next year. Or a week, sorry. We don't have, I spend so much money buying paper. We have glue for the most part, although I have bought glue, but just buying like every materials. Like if I want to do art with them, I have to buy it all. You're having a Halloween party, I buy it all. We're having a winter party, I buy it all. And like, that's not it. Like more than anything is just like, okay, we have our vice principal who now like our school site is funding. So we have to take money away from like having other like online resources or putting money towards the librarian or more books. Because they wanted to get rid of our vice principal, who is also basically our behavioral therapist who has these incredible relationships with the kids. And she's like the first to go when we have any sort of budget cut. I didn't know if I was going to have my job for like 6 months. We need counselors. We need social workers. We need way more arts, like so many things.
So how do you suggest we get more money into the schools?
Well, I know that in Oakland School District, they spend $6 million on cops a year and $1 million on librarians. Like, how is that? How are we spending 1/6 of the money on books and 6 times as much on having cops in schools?
So when they say defund the police, you agree with that?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Give kids books, give them art, give them other ways to learn and grow, and not just be like, you should come to school and it should be your sanctuary and you should feel safe. Not in one classroom, not with one teacher, but everywhere you go on that campus.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think we're going to solve racism in America?
Wait, stop. You don't ask me
I
questions
get to ask
on
the
this.
questions.
No. All right. So, were you done? That was it?
Yeah, I mean, I could
Just
talk
money?
about it for a really long time. Well, with money, you can have resources, and that's what
Okay.
kids need.
All right.
Better food for them to eat.
Uh-huh.
better
Right.
after school programs.
And if, let's say, all the money we get we get all that, right?
Mhm.
How will the world change, do you think?
I mean, if
Well, not the world. How will the United States
if
change?
every kid is given the same equal opportunity to start with, to learn their education, if you have the same education, and then if we're going to be forcing kids to take these tests, then you're not going to have these huge disparities of kids who are raised in mostly white districts having better test scores because their families pay more taxes and schools get money from the housing taxes in that community. Like, if we can give every kid an equal playing field, then they'll have equal opportunities to internships, to going to school, to whatever job, trade school they want to go to. Like,
How do you feel about teachers not wanting to go to the bad schools where they're really needed, but they want to go to the good schools where these kids are already smart as shit
I mean,
and getting homeschooled anyway? How do you feel about that?
that happens all the time.
Why do you think it happens?
Because the burnout rate is so high. If you have these kids who are clearly, you have like a behavior issue or whatever is happening with that kid, it comes from trauma. And if you can't call in somebody who can help calm them down or give them skills to de-escalate themselves, to deal with things by themselves, like, if you are like, you feel like you're on an island every day.
So you're saying these teachers are just bad teachers?
No, I'm saying that they have, at a certain point you have to step back, and if you can't care for yourself, how can you walk in a room and care for 25 8-year-olds all day long?
Do you know the easiest way to solve that problem? Like, a kid can be bad as he wants to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teacher can feel frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Teacher can feel like giving up.
Mm-hmm.
If a student knows that this teacher would never give up on him,
Mm-hmm.
that student will try harder to please that teacher, don't you think? If you're a teacher and a student is looking at you like, oh, this teacher doesn't even give a fuck. She doesn't care. She's just trying to get out here. She's watching the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Blah, blah, blah. She's not really trying to teach us. I'm raising my hand. She's not really trying to teach me how to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that student is going to like give his full 100% potential in that class? No. So it all comes down to the teacher, correct?
I mean, you have, yes, 100%. I mean, you have to, even if you have every other resource imaginable at your fingertips, if you have no relationship with your kids, like.
So we need better teachers.
Yeah, you have to, yes.
All right. We agree on that then. All right, Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
What, explain your, you said capitalism.
I said capitalism.
That's the number one issue with the United States, you said.
I mean, I think it affects every other issue that we could talk about. But I just think that, like, the way that, well, I think two things. One, the way that, like, the economic system is set up so that it's, like, everything is profit motivated. But then also the fact that I feel like we're kind of brainwashed in this country to think that that's the only option. And there's many other ways that we could, build the economy. So I think, I mean, in terms of solutions, I think, one, it goes back to education, educating people about other ways. But there's other ways of doing things like workers' cooperative or local economy type of stuff. And just not exploiting everybody left and right. I mean, that it comes, like, racism is a huge thing. You can't solve racism without solving capitalism. You can't solve capitalism without solving racism, because it's exploitation. That's what capitalism is, making a profit by exploiting somebody. So I think it's all connected.
So let's say you start a business, right? And you want your business to make, I mean, in order to have a business, you want your business to be successful and make as much money as you possibly can, correct? Mm-hmm. All right, so...
maybe.
What?
I said maybe.
What do you mean? I mean, in order to stay in business, you have to make money, right?
Yes. But that doesn't mean as much as you can.
Okay, but you don't control you can't control how much money your business is going to make. That's the consumer's job, right? We control how much money Apple makes because we're the stupid ones who go out and buy all the fucking Apple shit that comes out, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So Apple job is to just put the shit out there, and we're the ones who's buying it, making them the most successful, richest company in the world. So you can't control you're getting into business to make money and to stay in business, but you can't control how much money you make. That's the consumer. So saying that, are you trying to say like when you're making too much money, that's the problem?
I mean, it's
like
hard
Jeff Bezos, are you saying like Jeff Bezos is just making too much money and that's capitalism and that's the problem?
Yeah, I definitely think.
So to be devil's advocate, what if Jeff Bezos says, "Well, how can you tell me how much money I should make or I'm supposed to make?"
Well, I mean, yeah, in the system that we have, I mean, nobody can tell somebody, but in order for like the greater good and for everybody else, I would encourage people to not be billionaires. But
to not be billionaires?
To not be billionaires. I don't think that should happen.
Because at a certain point, I don't know.
No, go ahead, yeah.
At a certain point, can't you just be like, okay, my company, we're making good money, like, we're doing great, I have enough money, I have my house, whatever I need, I'm comfortable. Instead of just like putting more and more and more and more and more money in your bank, why don't you be like, why don't I pay my workers more? And then next time you are in the same situation where you have a shit ton of money, like, how can I give back now? What can I do instead? Like, why don't I open another branch or whatever it is so that then you can employ more people and
Jeff
pay
Bezos
them?
is not the hardest working person at Amazon, for sure. So
we always know that.
Flood that money through. I mean,
he's the richest man in the world.
Minimum wage. Everybody who works for Amazon, every delivery person, because of how much they're making, if they like distributed that profit.
So how would we fix that problem though? Like, what?
I'm not an economist, so I don't.
But what do you think?
I mean, you could do like government
laws?
Regulations, right? Like there's like antitrust laws where there can't be like monopolies where certain companies can't like completely take over the market, supposedly. But I mean, I feel like there's loopholes for everything. I mean, and you could argue what is taking over. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's laws about this, but I feel like it's easy for companies.
I think the most recent one I heard of was AT&T. They stopped AT&T from purchase because AT&T wanted to purchase Sprint, T-Mobile. It's basically they wanted to purchase all the cell phone companies, and so the government stepped in and was like, "Well, you can't purchase all the fucking cell phone companies because you're going to be the only choice that people have to go to." It's just like that dude in Mexico. I think he's like the second or third richest person in the world. He owns every fucking phone. He owns all the phone companies in Mexico, and he's the only one. People have no choice but to get his phone service. So that's basically what. I mean, there is a law, but I don't know the name of it. So all right. So you're saying stop capitalism, and then the world will be better.
The world would be a better place.
Okay. So do you guys were you for defunding the police too?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Where do you think let's say we defund the police. We take $3 million away from their budget. What do you think? How would you distribute that extra $3 million?
Well, I don't really know enough about like the Oakland city budget, really, but
I mean, I don't know. It's just a ballpark figure.
Yeah,
you know, it's like 40%. Oakland,
I know, 44%
makes up for 44% of the.
I mean, all fucking police forces. They're.
I know it's
their budgets are way because they're like why do police forces need fucking military weapons and shit to patrol?
And I buy
city
crayons.
Streets. Exactly.
You should be going to her crayons.
That's why these motherfuckers are out there they think they're like in the army and shit, driving these tanks around. What do you need a tank for? Just to go handle a noise complaint? Anyway.
Well, first I think it should go towards like developing an alternative, right? Because everyone's freaking out if we're not going to have police. And there are other like.
Well, those are ignorant people who don't know what the fuck defunding the police really means.
I know everyone's so confused about that slogan. It's like people don't get it.
Those stupid motherfuckers.
You don't like the slogan? You think it's confusing?
I don't think it's confusing because I actually read, but there's people who don't, and I can see how it would be confusing. But that's just it's kind of like a Trumpism where you say something in a way that. It means something totally different because you know how Trump says, I don't know what is it like. He says he calls the coronavirus the China flu.
Yeah.
When it's not. I mean, you can debate on where it actually started, but people will hear that and be like, "Oh, only Chinese people have it and brought it.
They gave it to us."
Yeah. So I think when people hear defund the police, that just means oh, you're taking all their money away, and then they're all gonna get fired and all that shit. But
I mean, like when you walk down, like through downtown Oakland, and you see like so many buildings that have there's nothing in them, and it's like, why don't that could be like a community center, or that could be a mental health center, or that could be like it's not like we don't have spaces or places or people. There's just no money to going into these things. Like I could find you 20 empty places that could be easily converted into better preschools for families that are working, where everyone's working. Like you have to have somewhere safe to send your kid. You have to have, if you need medication, if like there's so many things that it could go to, that like the money could be allocated so easily, and there would be people stepping up everywhere who would be thrilled to have more money to invest in their community.
so where would you divide the money in?
I mean, education, social workers, counselors, addiction specialists,
Mental health responders.
mental health responders. Like
You're saying just hire more people?
I mean, there'll have to be different trainings, and they'll have to be like moving around. Like if you are a social worker of whatever, like your specialty was, maybe now you're a first responder social worker, or you're a mental health person.
So you'll put all the money into the education?
No, I didn't. I just said the opposite of that. Some money should go to education, hell yeah. But like all those other things I just listed. Getting better food to people. There's like so many food deserts where like you can have healthy, fresh things.
Okay. Have you been to any protests lately? Which one
I
did
was
you go
just
to?
at one right before this.
Where was this at?
It was right downtown. It was it was actually for the Oakland Public Schools. I mean, I don't work in Oakland Public Schools, but I live in Oakland. For defunding police in the schools. So there's like petitions, and they did a caravan, and yeah.
I'm actually one of the few people who were in a group, activist group, who stopped the police from coming into the Oakland schools.
Recently?
This is back in the day. This is like in 2001. So I was in a.
What was it called?
I was in a youth or activist organization called Yakin.
Okay.
It's Youth Against Criminal Injustice. NIA means together in Swahili, and they were trying to bring in police officers to be security guards in our school, and like fire the regular security guards who, first of all, will take away their jobs, and then second of all the kids in the high school they know these security guards, and these security guards are in the community and like all that shit. So they were going to fire them, bring in the racist cops to patrol high schools, and then we stopped that. We basically interrupted every school meeting. We were on TV. I probably.
That was in Oakland?
We interrupted all the, you know how they have like school board meetings and shit, and then I was on, the C-SPAN. We interrupted there, and then I gave a big speech. I was like the spokesman.
You have that footage still?
I don't have the footage. I mean, we probably could. I mean, it was on TV, so it probably could be
somewhere in the archives.
It probably could be looked up, but yeah, we stopped that shit from happening.
So what happened to the group?
Time ago. I mean, I don't know. We all fucking graduated, I guess.
Okay. What school? What high school was it?
This was at Castlemont.
Yeah, because the call to get police out has been going on since like at least 10, 11 years. They've had like a plan that they've been pushing.
And I don't think it's ever happened. Are police in schools right now?
Yeah.
They are? Like doing security?
But I don't have
any. I don't have any, but they're voting for OUSD. They're voting on the 24th, so on Wednesday. We'll see if they're just they just want to like completely cut the budget. It's called I think it's called the George Floyd Initiative.
It's called like the BOSS program, but then there's a new George Floyd resolution.
The resolution, because there's already, it's called Black Sanctuary Schools, and so that's like the organization that's leading it. And actually, the Oakland proposal has been adopted by like New York, Philly, like Boston, like other school districts are like, we want that. So Oakland's kind of, and they're doing it in my district as well.
Do you consider yourself a activist?
I mean, in my head, no, because I feel like an activist is like, I don't know, no. Like my first thought is no, but like I've been to No, I say no.
Lucy, do you consider yourself an activist?
I would also say no. I think you have. I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like I'd have to do more to really qualify myself as an activist.
Do you think it's weird when you are going to these marches and standing up for like race issues when you don't really experience what you're yelling?
I think it's, well, first of all, I think racism is a white people problem, right? So, I mean, I feel like it should be something that white people are showing up for and white people are addressing because it's our problem, right? But I also think, like, I don't know, the protests are a tricky situation because there are a lot of white people out there who are, like, a little bit too loud and a little bit,
there's a like, I don't mean to interrupt, but there's a thing going on called white guilt. And that's like a big on social media, and that's basically what I'm trying to say in this question.
When white people are doing too much.
Yeah.
Well, not doing too much. Do you, like, when you, let's say you're at a protest and you're screaming, "Oh, I can't breathe, I can't breathe," and then protest is over, you walk home and you put the sign in the cabinet or the closet or whatever, and then the black people you were marching with, they walk home, and then boom, he gets pulled over walking home and gets beat up or shot or something. So do you feel some type of way? Do you feel funny in the inside when you're marching and doing all these things?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't like, I in no means am like trying to lead it or trying, like, I just want to show up for other people who are facing injustices. And like, I see what you're saying. Like, I do get to go home, and the second I walk away, like, I'm white. Like, I can walk home, like, I'll be fine. Like, I'm not looking over my shoulder. I know if I get pulled over, like, who knows, like, I could talk my way out of a ticket, right? Like, and that's fucked up. And like, I think that most people who are going to these as white people are like, they want to be like, we're here for you. Like, I'm showing up. I'm not trying to, I don't know. Like, I think I know what you're saying. And I hope that it comes across, like, when I do go to things, that I'm here showing like solidarity, and that I'm not like, and that I think it's fucked up. And like,
so it's fucked up, but are you glad you don't have to, are you glad that if you get stopped, you can talk yourself out of a ticket? Are you glad that you don't have to look over your shoulder?
I mean, I would be lying if I said I wasn't. It's a privilege that I'm very aware of.
Then you're happy that you have the privilege.
I mean, I'm not happy, because if I was happy, then I would be saying that my happiness is coming from like what other people of color are facing. So like, am I happy? No, because I know that that privilege that I have is pushing other people down. So
but
no,
if you didn't have that privilege, right, and if you had to live the life of black people in this country, would you want that?
No, but that's like, I mean, no.
You're trying to explain. It's fine that you don't want to be treated.
No, I don't want
like black people are treated in this country. That's fine to say.
I don't want to.
You should. Yeah, exactly. And
I don't want to.
The fact that you're saying you don't want to be treated like that is how all white people should feel, because you should treat a person how you want to be treated. Isn't that right? Exactly. What about you?
Oh, what's the question?
Do you feel some type of way when you're out there marching as well?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I try and be like the same way, like conscious, try and be like humble about it and take leadership from other people. But I think I agree. I think it's important to support and show solidarity. And if there's something that I think is, not acceptable, to show up for it. So I think a lot of people are like being fueled by white guilt, and I think those like people like need to learn how to channel it and use it towards something positive than just like feeling guilty and going to things. But I don't think it's like productive or useful to like sit here and feel like a type of way about it.
What does what does that phrase "Black Lives Matter" to you? What does it mean to you?
What does it mean? I mean, I think it means that, Black people are worthy of the same type of treatment, the same type of justice that other people are given. And I think, it could go further than that and say that, Black people are like a valued part of the country and should be treated that way. Yeah.
So when people say all lives matter, what does that mean to you?
Honestly, I feel like I'm like in such a bubble that I don't have any like all lives matter people in my life to even argue with. So I'm always surprised when people talk about that, which is not a good thing. But I think that people think that, it's the same with the defund the police. People don't understand the slogan because they don't read and they don't educate themselves about it. But people think when people say Black Lives Matter, that means that other lives don't matter. So they're trying, it's the colorblind thing. They're trying to say all lives matter, everybody should be equal, and not understanding that when people say Black Lives Matter, it's only because we're dealing with a particular injustice towards Black people. And that's why that's something that we're like uplifting,
Dylan, what does Black Lives Matter to you?
I mean, right now, it would definitely, I think that it's saying that Black people are getting disproportionately gunned down by racist police all the time. And that, like, right now, I feel like because the Black Lives Matter movement didn't just come up after George Floyd's murder, like, it's been going on, but, like, I think definitely that the disproportionately, like, being killed, being locked up, the school to prison pipeline, like, is disproportionately hugely affecting Black people and other people of color. And, like, we need to dismantle the cops and white, what are white people called who want to be the best of the best, the KKK, the white
supremacists?
Yeah, white supremacists. And I couldn't think of that word. And that, like, white supremacy has, like, that has to be dismantled, and Black people's lives matter, and that they always have, but that, like, some people wouldn't say that.
What did you see that George Floyd video? You saw it too?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I've seen like parts of it.
What was your first thought when you saw it?
I was literally like standing up, like screaming at my phone, like, get off of him. Like, what the fuck? Like, get the fuck up. Like, you're killing this man and you know you're killing him. He knew what he was doing.
Do you have any friends or family members who had a conversation with you saying that, oh, if he was just obeying the law, if he wasn't resisting, nothing would have happened? Do you have anyone in your circle that tells you this?
Yeah.
Who?
My dad.
What's your dad's name?
I'm not telling you.
Your dad tells you if George Floyd would have just stopped resisting, he would be alive. That's what he's saying?
No, that wasn't his argument. But
that's his argument.
That it didn't have anything to do with the color of his skin.
That's what your dad said?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean.
Does your mom say this also?
No.
Is your dad what is your dad? What are his political views?
Republican.
Did he vote for Trump?
Probably. My mom raised me.
I mean, I don't give a shit about people voting for Trump, but when you vote for Trump, that just tells that just tells me that you are down with some type of racism, because people can say he's racist or he's not racist, but he does racist shit. And if you vote for a man like that, you are basically agreeing that you are down with some type of racism, no matter what it is.
No, and I agree.
And that tells a lot about a person who can vote for someone.
No, I know, I agree. And I, like, coming to this, I was like, I would assume that, like, how I was raised would get brought up. And I, like, thought about if I would say anything. And I sent my dad, like, a email that was, like, pages long. And
before you came here?
No, like, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Saying that you were going to do this?
No.
Oh.
about our conversation. It was very heated.
Mhm.
I hung up the phone, and that's that.
What would your dad say if you said, "Hi, Dad, this is Jamal. This is my fiance."
He probably wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, when I say Jamal, I mean he's black.
I know. He wouldn't say anything. He would act. I don't know.
What is deep down in your heart? Do you think he wouldn't care, or would he be like, "Yeah, say something behind your back"?
I don't know if he would say anything to me. I mean, it wouldn't matter. Like, I don't. Would he think about it? Yeah. Would he judge it? For sure.
Mm.
Would he be happy? Probably not. But
No. What about your mom? Would she feel the same way?
no.
She'll be like, "Oh, who cares?"
Yeah.
Does your dad's point of view does that hinder who you bring home?
No.
So if you fell in love with a black guy, you'll take him home?
Yeah.
Regardless?
Yeah.
What about you, Lucy?
What would my parents say?
Yeah.
Well, this has happened before, and basically, it's the same situation with me. My mom is a lot more like open-minded than my father, and he was basically just like, "You're setting yourself up for a more difficult life because things are harder for Black people, and so it's going to be harder for you to get a house. It's going to be harder for you to get a loan."
This is a conversation you guys had already?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
before you brought the black guy home or after?
After. So, I mean, and that's just like admitting that, there's systematic racism, right? And, but basically saying like, his perspective was like, it exists and this is going to set you back if that's who you choose, So, yeah, I don't know.
Did you and that black guy get married?
No.
I already knew the answer to that, but I was just joking. All right, so that doesn't affect who you date, right?
No.
How do you feel about people who take from Black culture but don't?
Appropriation.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
It's so widespread. I mean,
because you say your favorite music is reggae, right?
Mm-hmm. But I'm not making money off of it.
Yeah, I know that. But I'm saying when you go to reggae clubs, I'm pretty sure you're probably like one or probably like two of the white girls in the whole club, right?
Depends on where I am.
Do you get a lot of? Do you feel comfortable in an environment, or do you like, or is that on your mind, like, I'm the only white person here?
Sometimes. I mean, it's hard not to notice it.
But the Black people are not making you feel that way, right?
Depends on the place. Sometimes.
Yeah. You want to give me an example of a bad situation that happened?
I don't want to call out any places in Oakland, so. I mean, no.
Was it Reggae Gold or something?
No, I love Reggae Gold.
What's the place?
No, I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus here.
Oh my God.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty used to that.
No, wait. We need an example.
No, I'm not gonna give you an example.
Huh? All right.
But I mean, I think I've been the only white person in a lot of situations because, like, when I lived in Grenada, I would go weeks without seeing another white person. Mm-hmm. And yeah, people often have things to say, but the thing is that it's not like rooted in hatred. So that's what I have to remind myself, is that like when people have something to say to you because I'm white, it's not like it's usually not like hateful. You know what I mean? It's usually just like curious or obnoxious or annoying, but it's not like, it's not hateful and it's not violent.
Have you ever experienced anything bad when you were with a significant other, a Black person? Like anyone try to yell at you guys like, "Hey, what the fuck are y'all together?" and stuff like that? People stop me.
Was
this in the States?
Yes. Yeah.
People stopped you?
Yeah, people stop. Sometimes people stop to say like, "Oh, it's so great to see biracial couples," which is also annoying. But then there have also been times where like I've been with a partner and someone was saying racist things to them, and then I walk up and they're like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know that you were together," and that is also fucked up.
Dylan, anything happen like that to you? No?
No.
All right. Have you dated a black person seriously?
Never seriously, no.
Mexican person?
No.
Chinese?
Not Chinese, but Southeast Asian.
Yeah. How was that? Culture-wise?
Just different. I mean, like, Malaysia is very similar, I get. Like, it's much more, I'm in their culture, and I mean, it was fine. Like, I feel like within racism, right, is like if you bring a white person home, it's like they somehow think that, like, that's great and wonderful.
Yeah, the Asian country, I don't know, Asians are totally like that. That's why a lot of Asian women date white men. For a, what's that word? What's that word that you're trying to like?
Clout.
Yeah, I guess clout, whatever. What else? So, do you think racism is taught, or I guess that's an easy question.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you're not born racist.
But I also think, like, I heard something the other day that was like, even if you took all the racists out of the government, it would still be a racist government, right? Because it's not just like individual, it's not just like person to person racism. It's like the way that the whole system is set up. So I think, like, yes, it's taught individually, like parents to their kids, but I also think it's like deeper than that.
And it's just observed. It's what kids see. Kids don't have to be like explicitly taught something to learn something.
Or just, yeah, like as a white kid, you like test your boundaries and you see what you get away with. Like I've talked back to cops all the time and you're like, oh, I can get away with that. So you do it again. Right. So it's not like that was taught to me. Like my parents were like, it's fine if you talk back to cops, you know, but you like push your boundaries and you learn what you can get away with. And not that that's racist, but that's just like teaching you where you are in the world, kind of.
Do you own any guns?
No, I don't own any guns.
No.
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 What do you feel about gun laws?
They're saying that school teachers should be arming themselves.
No, I would never.
You don't agree with that?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
With all the school shootings?
Why do I need a gun? Why do I need a gun? Like,
what about when all these school shootings were going on?
Well, those people shouldn't have access to military-style weapons in the first place.
Right. All right, well, my last words on this is a system cannot fail. A system cannot fail people that the system wasn't designed for. I'll just leave it at that. You heard that quote?
Yep.
Okay. I was going to say I made it up, but since you heard it, it wasn't from me.
I heard it.
All right. Well, Lucy and Dylan, this is the time where you can promote, promote yourself, you can promote your school, you can promote your job. If you have friends that you want to promote, they have like a jewelry company or something, or a party or whatever. Or if you can give out any information that you want to the thousands and thousands of listeners to ECP. This is your time to do it. Lucy, we can start with you.
Well, I don't really have anything personal to promote in my business, but I would say that if people are interested in learning more in Oakland about defunding the police and about what people have been doing about this, Black Organizing Project are the people who are trying to get kids, the police out of schools, and then Anti-Police Terror Project are the people working on the Defund OPD project. So that's who I would like to shout out.
Nice. Dylan?
I'm like the least famous person, so I have nothing personal to shout out other than that we just need to keep investing in our youth. And so anytime that you're able to donate, think of how you can donate to youth in your area. making sure that you're attending youth-led organizations or like listening to what they have to say, because I feel like kids are the future.
The kids are leading like all these protests.
And
Yeah.
not just high school too. Like little kids can do so much. Like,
What are they called? The Gen Zers?
The Zoomers or something.
I don't even know.
I
I mean, like third graders blow my mind. I hang out with third graders all day and they can do incredible things. So listen to what kids have to say, because even if they're little, they have brilliant minds.
All right. That's it? That's all you guys got? All right, well.
I'm a teacher. Like, what do you want me to shout out?
Shout out.
All right, so Dylan, thank you for coming on the show. Lucy, thank you for coming on the show and touching on these crazy topics today. Yeah, find me, Instagram, Twitter, all that shit. everydaycelebritymedia.com if you want to reach out. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. And we are out.
Cool. See ya.
You.